Ashley Biden's diary is real. She really did take inappropriate sexual showers with her own dad, Joe Biden. And she really believes she was molested by older men as a young girl. But if it can happen to the daughter of a sitting U.S. senator, it can happen to anybody. It's just a matter of the authorities choosing to take it seriously instead of dismissing it all, or worse, being involved. Allie Carter may have the wildest personal story that we have ever heard. Allie grew up in the school of hard knocks, to say the least. She was one of 6 girls in a troubled home. Her parents were affiliated with the Black Panthers, the radical black separatist group, and maybe that's to blame for what happened to her. Allie says that her biological mother routinely slept with authority figures and soon initiated her own children into the same practices. Allie says that her mom would hand her over to be abused by the local police chief. She would take her to a trap house just to be abused. And when Allie coped with that pain by running away or by harming herself, she was rewarded by being placed in new foster care homes, where instead of her mother, it was teenage boys and foster fathers who in turn abused her. At the age of 13, Allie was trafficked first into strip clubs, then the Hollywood party scene. She says that she endured stalking, poisoning, and police harassment. And most incredibly of all, she says that this is a system that major American celebrities have knowledge of and participate in. Celebrities like John Travolta, Beyonce, Barack Obama, and yes, Joe Biden. In July of 2020, Allie stepped forward to tell her story. Instagram tagged that account as, quote, unsafe for the election, and blocked it. Like we said, this is a horrific story. And we will not silence Allie Carter. We want to learn all about it, and she joins us now. Allie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Stu. I really appreciate you.
So, in July of 2020, you came out on Instagram. You couldn't bottle it up anymore. You made claims about Barack Obama and Joe Biden that shocked the world. How did it get there? Take us through your story.
Well, you know, as young as I remember, I've been trafficked through many elite places. I went from the Buckingham Palace to under the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, still under the custody of Child Protective Services, the child welfare system. It went from trap houses in your everyday neighborhood of Moreno Valley, California, and Los Angeles County, strip clubs, and into Hollywood elite parties. There was never a time of peace in my life. And I remember very clearly since 4 years old, there was never a time of peace in my life. It's been ongoing.
Who started all of this? I mean, your mother originally. And then
yes.
Who carried on? How did you end up in Buckingham Palace and underneath the Getty Museum and alongside some of these household names that I just mentioned?
When I was a child, there was many things that went on in the home. I tried to talk. I tried to let people know. Child Protective Services were called constantly since I was 3 months old. By the time I turned 13, I had enough of being raped and beaten and tortured behind rocks on La Salle in Moreno Valley, California. I had enough of going through dealing with my mother's boyfriends. She was nothing of a mother, but I had enough of dealing with them at 4 o'clock in the morning. I had enough of being the favorite out of the girls. And I couldn't take anymore, so I tried to kill myself. When I turned 13, CPS came into the picture. I was put into mental hospitals, and then finally I was put into foster care. I thought things would be over from there. I thought it would be fine, and then after all of that, I started thinking that I was talking to someone online, but everybody knew me before I knew them. I was trafficked by a pimp who claimed to be 27 years old, and he was not. I found many passports, many different birth dates for him in his wallet. And when I told CPS this, they put him down as a 27-year-old boyfriend, and he was a 27-year-old trafficker that was going in and out of my homes, paying off my foster parents, and taking me to Hollywood elite parties over and out of the country, which is, you would think, would be where the FBI would have stepped in. I was letting my social workers know, and they told me to stay quiet. They told me that if I told anybody else, that I would be shipped off to Arizona and no one would ever find me again. So, at one point, you learn that you have to deal with what you have to deal with when the people in authority are not there to help you. And everybody is so worried about the elite, and we could give those names of Barack Obama, Joe Biden. We know about Michelle Obama, that's a man. We know about Too Short. We know about Akon and Steven Tyler, and we can give those names all day, and everybody is so worried about that, but what you should be worried about is the people that are in between, the people that go as low as your grave diggers. I was trafficked to people within my schools. I was trafficked in underground tunnels that link under your schools, through your cemeteries, under your amusement parks, through Universal Studios, and into Hollywood elite homes, all over the place, all over the world. And people don't understand that, and they can't fathom that, and they can't put that together. But if you think about the things that have come out lately, and there's 200 children missing, and there's 300 children missing, what Amber Alert did you receive? How many times do you receive an Amber Alert every year? And if you think about that, how many children are coming up in your face that have been tortured and abused like this? It exists and it's real, and people don't want to face it. It happens in your schools every day, as your grave diggers, your trash men. Everybody is involved, but everybody is looking at the top, and that's just a small percentage, and you really need to look at the people in between.
So the names that you just mentioned, Barack Obama, Steven Tyler, Joe Biden, Michelle Obama, have you had personal sexual experiences with these people?
Yes.
These people participated in sex abuse firsthand with you.
Yes.
Can you tell that story? Because that's important for people to understand and to know. And to this point, I don't think a national platform has given you the opportunity to say those things.
No, because everybody is complicit. Everybody is complicit. It is covered up by your local FBI. It is covered up by your local police department. It is underground tunnels. There's a whole world. It's a different way of life. There's every source of transportation. When I met Joe Biden, I was rushed through many celebrities. Half of them I did not know. It didn't faze me to see them. It didn't. Some of them were actually very conceited and cocky that I didn't know who they were. Underground, under the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, there are many tunnels. Again, there's a way of transportation. There's every single way of transportation under the ground. I was sold to Joe Biden. Multiple times. Sometimes people don't talk about it, because when you don't talk about it, it makes it okay. When you don't talk about it, it makes you bury it. When you don't talk about it, it's easier, and it kills that part of you. I was sold for blowjobs. I was sold for sex. There is many people who trade to eat, beat, and rape children under the ground. I have many friends that I've lost, and I have many people that I've met that didn't make it, that refer to me as a traitor.
And that's because they're still dealing with this right now to this day.
Yes, there are millions just like me. There are millions worse off than me. There are millions that people cut off their limbs so they don't fight them back when they rape them. There are millions that they take pleasure in draining their blood and using it as a source of a fountain of youth. People have many sick fetishes, and the Hollywood elite, we sign their paychecks. We sign all of their paychecks every single day. This when you stream their music, when you buy something from their brands, we sign their paychecks. And these are the people that have put something in your face and made you want to believe that you are the ones that are responsible to make them look the way they look. Their image is not what you think it is. They're sick, evil people.
This is something that has only recently become accepted by a large amount of people. Until now, a lot of people would look at you, Allie Carter, and say, you're crazy. And is that what these people at CPS held over your head and said, you're going to go to Arizona? You keep talking crazy like this. We're very concerned about your mental health. Is the gaslighting something that they did to try to make you doubt your own experiences, your own personal knowledge of what it was that was going on, the horrific tragedy that you were experiencing? I mean, is that what they would do? Is that the tactics?
Yes, I was taught pain is pleasure. I was taught that you do not speak unless you're spoken to. I was taught that as a foster care kid, you have nothing but what's in your trash bag that you carry from home to home when you're evicted from foster home to foster home. I was in over 19 high schools in 1 year. I never stayed in a place longer than a month. I was never in a home. I was moved all around because nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted to do anything about it. The California Ombudsman was contacted. My foster mother, that is now my adopted mother, I'm adopted now, she went to everyone. She went to the police. She went to the California Ombudsman. She went to private investigators. She talked to judges, attorneys, lawyers. She went to everyone, and everyone shut her down. There was no help whatsoever, and she was made out to be the crazy one. I was made out to be the crazy one. I was a high-risk kid. I was moved from foster homes to level 14 lockdown group homes, and every single time something happened, every single time I came in with cracked ribs, with bruises, with bites, with rape kits beyond rape kits. No one did anything. I went from shelter to shelter, from CPS report to CPS report, and CPS is your cover-up. CPS is corrupt. CPS buys and sells and trades children. That is their major facade. There are some good social workers out there, and there are some social workers that know that they cannot speak on things, they cannot do certain things, and they have to abide by certain rules, because if you don't, you will be abused too, just like there is in the Brotherhood Freemason Cops. There is a secret society in the Freemason Cops as well. We are not safe. We have been threatened.
I'm Dwight Mitchell, the founder of the 501c3 nonprofit Family Preservation Foundation and the parental rights groups Stop CPS from Legally Kidnapping Children. We are now over 11,000
services has become a protected empire built on taking children and separating families. This is not to say that there are not those children who do need to be removed from wretched situations and need protection. However, my report is concerned with the children and parents caught up in legal kidnapping. Having worked with probably 300 cases statewide and hundreds across the country, and in nearly every state, I am convinced there is no accountability in child protective services. The Adoption and the Safe Families Act set in motion first in 1974 by Walter Mondale and later in 1997 by President Bill Clinton offered cash bonuses to the states for every child they adopted out of foster care. Some counties often offer $4,000 to $6,000 bonus for each child adopted out to strangers, and an additional $2,000 for a special needs child. Employees work to keep the federal dollars flowing. The National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect in 1998 reported that 6 times more children died in foster care than in the general public, and that once removed to official safety, these children are far more likely to suffer abuse, including sexual molestation, than in the general population. Think what that number is today, 10 years later. Child Protective Services seizes children using the very system that is paid for by the taxpayer, who actually believes it is used to protect abused and neglected children. The bureaucracy of workers benefit financially by a system that converts children into cash while destroying their families and their lives.
Today we're looking at fraternity life. Now you might think fraternity, I get that, it's parties and maybe it's networking. But there is an underbelly that you don't often see, and sometimes it goes too far.
A makeshift memorial of flowers and candles is placed outside the Chi Tau fraternity house for Matthew Carrington. Police say the 21-year-old Chico State student was in the basement of this house taking part in a fraternity event at 5 a.m. Wednesday morning.
It just makes me sick that they didn't think. They didn't think something's wrong. So why can't someone say stop?
I'd say, guys, he's bleeding out of his mouth. He's dying. He's dying.
Today we're talking with someone who's been there and survived. This is the dark side of frat life.
And organizations practice some type of hazing as an initiation rite. Military units, gangs, and sports teams are just a few of the groups known to have inflicted hazing rituals on their prospective members. However, it is university fraternities that are most often associated with hazing. Usually, hazing consists of a couple pranks or a few embarrassing activities to welcome new members. However, some inductees are subjected to abuse and torture, sometimes for days on end, and not everyone recovers from the torment. Each of the following young pledges succumbed from the injuries they received while they were hazed. Number 10, Chun Michael Deng. 19-year-old Chun Deng pledged Pi Delta Psi, an Asian American cultural fraternity. He and 4 other pledges were driven away from their campus for a fraternity event. The pledges were all forced to run a gauntlet, called the glass ceiling. They had to run through a group of their fraternity brothers while blindfolded and carrying a backpack weighed down with 20 to 30 pounds of sand. Deng fought against the fraternity brothers' attacks, and he managed to kick one of the men who was beating him. The brothers became angry, and they started to hit Deng harder. One of them ran at Deng from 15 feet away and plowed into Deng with his head lowered. Others pushed Deng into the ground. They did not stop until Deng was unconscious. The brothers carried Deng's body into the house, laid him down, and put sugar on his lips to try to wake him up. Deng did not move. They called the fraternity president, who told them to hide everything showing the fraternity's log. When they finished, they Googled Deng's symptoms, and they realized that he was not going to get better. After an hour, 3 members took Deng to the hospital. The doctors found bruises across Deng's head, cheeks, back, and thighs, and Deng had suffered severe trauma to his head, which had left him brain dead. His family took him off life support the following day. 30 people pleaded guilty to various charges, including assault, hazing, and conspiracy. They were sentenced to probation, ranging from 6 to 36 months. 3 of the members pleaded guilty to manslaughter, and they were sentenced to 10 to 24 months in jail. Number 9. Timothy Piazza. After Timothy Piazza was served 18 drinks in less than 90 minutes during a pledge initiation called the Gauntlet, he fell down a flight of stairs. 4 fraternity brothers carried him upstairs. He was placed on a couch, and they threw beer on his face twice to wake him. Piazza did not respond. The brothers left him on the couch and walked away. A newly initiated member, Cordell Davis, saw Piazza lying on the couch, and he screamed at the fraternity brothers for help. Davis told them that Piazza needed to go to the hospital because he could have a concussion. One of the brothers shoved Davis against the wall and said they had it under control. Piazza's condition worsened throughout the night. He got up and fell 4 more times, and he fell down another flight of stairs. Several hours later, fraternity members found Piazza lying on the basement floor. They carried his unconscious body upstairs, placed him back on the couch, and tried to shake him awake. They finally called 911 12 hours after Piazza first fell down the stairs. Piazza was hospitalized, and he died the next day. He had suffered multiple brain injuries, hemorrhagic shock.
I'm a Mason. I beat all my cases.
Story of Kendrick Johnson, whose lifeless body was found upside down, wrapped in a wrestling mat at his high school gym in southern Georgia. His death was ruled an accidental asphyxiation by state and local law officials. He was only 17 years old. This was back in 2013, and his family still has questions, and they suspect foul play. There's now a documentary film on what happened to Kendrick called Finding Kendrick Johnson.
Smaller part of my population.
Tom Dart is an unusual sheriff. He thinks the majority of inmates in his jail shouldn't be there, and he's fighting to get them released. He's the sheriff of Cook County, Illinois, which includes the city of Chicago, and he runs the Cook County Jail.
What you're saying is pretty radical, though, especially hear it from you. It's very rare to hear the person who's running the jail system say, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I know. And I think it's part of it is because I'm in a unique position where I can see it, haven't been a prosecutor before, never been confused with being a bleeding heart liberal. But to sit there and say there's no logic to this, it makes no sense. It's not treating people as individuals, not treating them as humans, it's treating them as just numbers, and that as really just for getting people out of our hair, we'll just push them in here and just ignore them. It's like, oh, you can't do that.
Dart wants to change the system so jails like his aren't just a dumping ground for the poor, the desperate, and the mentally ill.
The Cook set.
The man in this video is Cody Greenland. On the afternoon of April 17th, 2020, he was confronted by officers. Complying, he got to his knees, and then he was blindsided. Here's the view from that officer.
I could feel Officer Cannon coming. I could hear his equipment on him. I got hit in the spine.
This court decision could mean for the use of that chair and the cost to Gwinnett County taxpayers. Randy?
That's right, Resident Elise. Yeah, jail policy forbids these chairs be used for punishment. Instead, they're supposed to protect the inmate from self-harm and taxpayers from expensive medical care. But could their frequent use wind up costing even more?
You may remember what happened to Justin Shuford in 2013. When we talked to him back then, he was just trying to forget.
Just bring back some bad memories. I ain't never trying to go back in there.
Maybe that's the point they were trying to make on you.
Yeah, maybe.
Brought into the Gwinnett County Jail on a probation violation from an earlier DUI conviction, Shuford punched the cell wall one time. When he saw the jail's rapid response team gear up, he quieted down. But 8 minutes later, they still stormed inside.
It wasn't necessary. I was calm. I wasn't being disruptive.
It's part of the problem. And tonight we follow the money, and what we are about to expose surprised even us. People who voluntarily ask for help, but instead are locked up against their will. Here's Charlotte Huffman with this WFAA original.
Imagine walking into a mental health facility voluntarily because you want help. Then the doors lock behind you. You're told you can't leave. You're stripped of your clothes, your cell phone. You're given a new bed surrounded by strangers. You have no idea when you'll see your family again. Now imagine you're only 11 years old.
Guys, it was bad. Horrible.
Let's take you back to where this all started. 11-year-old Mason Johnson is on the school bus. So is a bully.
Like, people call me names, hit me sometimes. I said, I wish I was dead so I wouldn't have to be by you.
He says he didn't mean it, but Mom LaToya,
Because I didn't know what to do.
took it seriously.
Because I don't want to, him to kill himself or to have a problem and me ignore it. So I just wanted help.
She got a recommendation to go to Millwood, a private psychiatric hospital in Arlington.
We encourage you to reach out to us to find out more about how this facility plays a role in suicide awareness.
So the next morning, that Tuesday, I took him straight to Millwood at 8:30 in the morning. They set us in a room, they locked us in a room. It was a locked door.
LaToya was just looking for counseling. The staff told her Mason wasn't going anywhere.
She was like, oh, well, you don't want to wake up one day and find your kid hanging from his bed, do you? And I was like, well, no, I don't want that. She was like, well, won't you let us teach him some coping skills? Just give him a few days with us and we'll have fun and play games. So that sounded good to me. I was like, okay, let's try it.
After 3 nights, LaToya wanted her son home, but she says Millwood staff wouldn't let him go. Remember, they went in voluntarily.
Really crazy that they held him that long. And when I think back at it, I wish I knew then what I knew now. Like, I would be so like, no, go get him. Go pack his stuff up.
What she didn't know then is that state law says patients who voluntarily check themselves into a psychiatric hospital can check themselves out unless a doctor says they're unfit to leave. The law also says the hospital has to release a voluntary patient within 4 hours. That clock starts once the patient signs a release form.
When I said I want to sign him out, she said, no, you don't have to sign that form. That is not necessary.
Instead, LaToya says staff told her they'd need to keep Mason 2 more nights until Monday, when a psychiatrist would be in to approve her son's release. It's now Monday. The hospital still won't release Mason. So she signed the release form and asserted her right to take her son home. That's when she says, and records show, Mason's doctor threatened to call CPS if LaToya had Mason discharged.
I guess they thought threatening me was going to get me to leave him there.
In an email, Millwood CEO says, we deny the allegations that have been made. He didn't answer our questions, though, about why they kept him when his mom wanted him out. Cindy Gibson with watchdog group Disability Rights Texas says it comes down to one thing.
Money. I mean, these children aren't staying in the hospital for free, and for every 24 hours they're there, the hospital's getting paid.
The grand total for Mason's 8-night stay against his mom's will, $11,375.
If the child is discharged, then in order to keep getting paid, they have to find another child to fill that bed.
Millwood is part of one of America's largest psychiatric hospital chains. Several of their facilities have recently been under federal investigation, including this one in Florida, where records show allegations that staff was fraudulently doctoring patients' records, making up psychiatric disorders so that they could keep patients for Medicare billing. Last summer,
I'm pregnant.
16, pregnant, and she says punished with an injection because she demanded to see a doctor. That's the story of one girl. She asked we not use her name.
They put me on a chair and held my arms.
And they pulled your pants down and gave you the shot?
Yeah, put it in my cheek.
Her story begins at this for-profit psychiatric hospital in Garland. Her parents voluntarily admitted her, but then say the hospital wouldn't let her go.
I was supposed to be there only a night, and they kept me there for 8 days.
Your parents were trying to get you out?
Yeah, every day.
Cut off from the outside world, held in a room upstairs. This is what was happening downstairs.
We've called and asked the doctor to call us 100 times.
A mother demanding to speak to a doctor. A relative recorded the whole thing.
We have made 100 phone calls and left 100 messages for the doctor to call us.
Eventually, she turns to prayer.
Please, Lord God, please open the door and allow our daughter to get out of here.
And hires an attorney to help get her 16-year-old out. We've talked to more than a dozen children who sought help. Remember, they all walked in voluntarily, but say they were caught up in a troubled system. For-profit psych hospitals accused of manufacturing reasons to keep patients and keep billing their insurance.
In a facility like that, no one can get to you. And that's the scary part.
Hey y'all, so I just want to get on here real quick and say that, like, if something happened to me, if just real blunt and honest with, if I end up dead, if I end up missing or something like that, just know somebody did it. And I just want to get out here and put something out, because I know how the media, I know how my job, being in the military, will paint these false narratives. And I'm going to do more talking about it. I'm trying to post a video now, but I just need something quick put out there, so that way people know, like, if it was self-inflicted or something like that, my family would know, my friends would know. So if nothing come from them or nothing like that, I just want to say somebody did it. I don't know what's going to happen, but for some reason I feel like my days, something is just telling me my days are limited, and I don't know how it could be. You know, I don't know if it's, you know, things get heavy, man, and I'm not even gonna lie, like, things are perfect for me. Like, it could be now, like I said, I'm trying to make a video of everything, just saying, then they can paint whatever picture they want, and people don't know my side of the story. So I'm gonna make a video, but just keep me in y'all prayers, and just know that don't
like, as far as like probably like in Hollywood, if you in the industry, the devil, they like Illuminati, all that shit, they try to get you. Especially when you got a big influence, you around that shit. They try to get anybody, but you just gotta be smart and have discernment and have God's favor over you. Cause if you don't got that and you in Cali, you gonna get sucked in for sure.
What are those? Well, Vicky, yes.
Yeah, I know her personally. She is really like that, you know, like, she ain't going, she can peep some dumb shit, you know, she can peep some fuck shit, like, a lot of fuck shit go on at them parties, like, dead ass. Me personally, my personal experience, I would have did the same shit as her. You talking about pricking some blood, it'd be some weird shit going on with these niggas in the industry, like, dead ass. You would not believe some of the shit that some of these people do for clout, for fame, for any of that shit. People do some crazy shit that you would never think of. Me, I'm pure. And I feel like, bro, if you got faith in yourself, you don't got to do none of that shit. You stay true to who you are. You know what I'm saying? Stay true to yourself. That's the most important thing, bro. Fuck all that shit, man. But the party scene in LA is really like that. It's really like that, just in the industry, period. If you want to get on fast, like, niggas gonna get their blood pricked. Like, that shit is not for me, though. Like, I'm not with that shit. You don't know what they putting in your body at all. Be injecting you with something you don't even know. Like, hell no. Fuck that shit.
Scenario there, but they wanted phones not to be used.
Nah, I mean, I feel like if you invite people, they should expect, respect privacy, especially if it's a exclusive event. I don't believe phones should be taken away, but also don't be recording no shit that you don't need to be recorded.
Have you ever attended an event where there was a non-disclosure agreement signing?
Yeah.
And did you end up signing one?
Yeah, I signed an NDA before.
How many times?
Just once.
Okay. What was the point of that?
It's what happens. Like, I knew while it was up in that bit, I'm cool in it, though. Like, hell, I'm not with none of that. Like, I'd rather grind my ass off for a long time and that shit pay off rather than do some other shit. 100%. I'm 100% with this slow grind too. Like, fuck that shit. Like, I know what be going on. Like, shit dead. Like, hell, I'm not with none of that. Like, I'd rather grind my ass off for a long time and that shit pay off rather than do some other shit. 100%. I'm 100% with this slow grind too. Like, fuck that shit. Like, I know what be going on. Like shit dead.
I lift their spirits because God is a good God. And I live actually past 2 years of my death sentence. And I probably came close to death 4 times, aside from this lung injury illness. So we're going to take a small break while I clear my face and straighten up my makeup. But I wanted to make sure you, young man, because you do so much good out there with getting the right information, you know, because you get to the root of where the info comes from and you try to give the fans and other people a chance to know the truth. And I respect you so much, my brother. I really do. Tim has heard this, but the other 2 people by you never heard it.
Okay.
The doctor gave me 6 months to live. They never. So her and Jamel, my son, never heard it.
When?
So that's why I sped up the album and I sent you what I sent you, because he gave me 6 months. So I wanted to do something positive than just all the dick sucking records and pretty much what was popular back in those days.
You're right.
So my grandkids can have something that they're proud of their Nana Jewel. So when I talked to Sharitha, she didn't even know. And I said, this guy, Art, he doesn't know that I'm about to probably give him what would become some of the most. Because remember when I asked you, how did you break your interviews down? And you was like, oh, I do them sometimes 15-minute segments. Just, you're probably gonna have some of the most iconic footage out there before I do this final documentary. Because it's not gonna be long. But I beat the odds because 2019 was my first diagnosis, and I have all the paperwork to substantiate the longevity of my life. I died at Walmart and they brought me back to life. Now,
but I did believe it at one point. I did, you know, I was approached. I was where a person asked me, yo, such and such. And I was just like, nah, like, you know.
Such and such, like, what do
like,
you mean,
yo,
man?
you know, because at the end of the day, you probably make it to where you make it on your own.
Right.
But a lot of people will offer you something to sustain that.
On the way.
And I, at that moment, this was, I don't know if it was that person or if this was a whole entity that came with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was offered something and I just wasn't with it. And then they said, good luck, young man, you're on your own. And I never went platinum since.
Wait, so what did they offer you?
They was just like, you know, you walk this way or you come this way, and
that's
Did they ask about like sacrifices or something?
Nah, I didn't go that far. Like I was just like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go this way, and that was their exact words.
What impact did they sell you on? Did they say, hey, we could do such and such and such?
Nah, they didn't. It wasn't like that. I wasn't really allowed. If that was the case, it really wasn't allowed. And or maybe I was bugging. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The thing about it was, I did never go platinum again. I did never go platinum
No,
again.
so it's a conspiracy somehow.
So I kind of thought that. But when I came back, And maybe it was me. Maybe because I figured out another way to do it. You know, maybe I've run its course. Like, it doesn't matter how dope you are. The audience gets tired of you after a while.
Right.
Now, you could blame it on, oh, shit, I wasn't fucking with this guy, or I wasn't with this guy. Or you could say, yo, the audience gets tired of you.
Yeah.
Things
So,
change, yeah.
at that time, when I was being offered something just once, I thought that. I really thought that this was what that moment was. This was Illuminati, and I turned it down.
But if you say it out loud, you getting killed, you know. So now y'all know, if something happened to me after this interview, if something happened to Doggy Diamonds after this interview, y'all know that everything that the motherfuckers is saying out there is true. Because it took me a lot for me to just say what the fuck I just said. So if I get killed, mysteriously, I'm not on no drugs. There's nothing wrong with me. My health is fine. If anything happens to Doggy Diamonds, nothing's wrong with his health. He's not on any drugs. Then y'all know this is true. You know what I'm saying? Once again, I am not, my words are not the words of Doggy Diamonds TV. My words are
knows how to repay you.
I started giving on that level so that God would owe me.
I totally know. I don't worry about that.
Joel Osteen, Joyce Meyer, T.D. Jakes, Kenneth Copeland, Benny Hinn, Paula White, Creflo Dollar, and countless other so-called Christian teachers have become rich selling you your dream life in the name of Jesus Christ.
According to the scripture, if you give to God, you ought to be so blessed you don't know what to do with yourself.
When you give to Joel Osteen, you're lending to God, and God will repay you with health and finances.
I love that scripture. It says, when you help those in need, you are lending to the Lord, and He will repay you. That's what you do each week, or every time you give. You are lending to God, and I know you've seen in your own life, God knows how to repay you.
When you give to T.D. Jakes, you're giving to God as a business partner, who then becomes indebted to you.
See, God is my business partner, and my giving to him is his cut. And if I rip off his cut, why should he bless me? I started giving on that level so that God would owe me. Oh, y'all don't hear what I'm saying? You can't handle that. I started giving on the level where I put God in debt, and God said, I'll owe no man. I started giving on the money that I wanted to make. I started giving on a deal that hadn't closed yet, and then God had to open up the windows of heaven and pull me out a blessing because he wasn't going to be in debt to me.
When you give to Joyce Meyer, you get a receipt that you can cash in when you have a need.
When I talked with Dr. Roberts today and we talked about this seed faith thing, he said something awesome. He said the Bible says giving and receiving, but he said God has taught me by studying that word receiving that another way to say that word is receipting. The word receiving means receipting. And so he said when you give, you get a receipt in heaven. That when you have a need, you can then go with your receipt and say, you see, God, I have got my receipt from my sowing, and now I have a need, and I'm cashing in my receipt.